So here is a sports trivia question to get us started in the brand new year 2026. What do Bill Buckner, Scott Norwood, Andre Escobar, Steve Smith, and now Tyler Loop have in common? Well, the answer is they screwed up in front of not just tens or hundreds or thousands, but millions of people. Today, we talk about the question, you on your worst day. Welcome aboard to Finding Traction.
Ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, it's great to have you on board for 2026. Let me just say, I love to connect with guys out of my story, which is a story around sexual brokenness and a struggle with porn. And really, I'd love to help guys going into the year. And if there's any way that I can do that, I'd love to connect with you. You can get a contact with me at bandofbrothers.care at gmail.com. You can get access to a whole bunch of free resources on my Circle Learning app, which you will see in the show notes, how to sign up for that. And in there, you're going to get lots of information about not just documents and planning tools. For example, the planning tool to get you started for 2026 is in there, but also information on the 52-week video course, Finding Traction, that I've literally now had hundreds of people take. And it's a place for you to connect with that course, a place for you to find out maybe more about groups, whether you're looking for just a regular group of guys or you're maybe in Christian ministry. I have a brand new group for people in full-time vocational ministry starting Monday mornings. And we're starting that this week in January. So if those things interest you, or you just want to get together with me for a Zoom call and tell me a little bit more about your story and hear a little bit more about mine, I'd love to connect with you. Once again, my email is bandofbrothers.care at gmail.com. Well, let's go back to this question around people who screwed up in front of millions of people. So just to give you a little bit of idea about some of those people, Jackie Smith, I don't think I mentioned him. My favorite team, the Cowboys, he had a ball thrown to him in the end zone, would have won the Super Bowl right in the numbers. He dropped it in the end zone. Jackie Smith, tight end, known for his drop. Of course, Bill Buckner. Bill Buckner had a routine. Some of this I know is going to be painful for all of you Boston Red Sox fans. Bill Buckner in the 1986 World Series Game 6, he had a routine ground ball. He was a first baseman. It went right through his legs. And essentially they lost the game in the series. It was probably the most famous baseball error in history. Scott Norwood, painful for all you poor Buffalo Bills fans. Maybe this year you'll make it up. He missed a last-second field goal, and they lost by 1 point. What else here? Let's go across the pond. Steven Gerrard from Liverpool. He slipped, leading to a goal, and Liverpool lost crucial points and the league title. Steve Smith. I have a few hockey fans, Edmonton Oilers fans. He accidentally, in the 1986 NHL playoffs, scored on his own goal, which resulted in the Edmonton Oilers being eliminated. And probably one of the most tragic ones, Andre Escobar, who played for the Colombia national team. He scored soccer, of course, or football, as you guys probably rightly call it. He scored on his own goal, the Colombia national team, and actually it ended up resulting in his murder. So that is a really tragic story. They say the cartel killed him over that one. But most of us didn't, most of these guys didn't get murdered for their screw up. The most recent example was from this last week. Tyler Loop, who was actually drafted as a kicker, a young guy for the Baltimore Ravens. They had a chance to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he missed what was a fairly easy field goal right at the last play of the game, resulting in Baltimore losing to their hated rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Baltimore is now eliminated. Pittsburgh goes on to the playoffs. So all of those people have in common, they made a massive screw up on a world stage. Now, most of us won't have that level of screw up, but I do want to ask the question, just like it was for each one of these guys, their very worst day, I want to talk about you on your worst day. And in our groups, and when I coach guys in groups and individuals, we have guys that sometimes have had a horrible week. They slipped, they face planted, they fell on their face, they fell back into their old patterns, and they show up chagrined, sheepish, almost like red-faced with embarrassment, which, is more of a personal reflection on what they're experiencing than the group. But they're going, this feels like my worst day. I have totally face planted. And so one of the things I want to say is, how do you respond to your own version of your worst day? And I want to give just 3 or 4 things that I want to maybe encourage us with as we talk through if you're coming off some version of your worst day. Here's the first one. Be realistic. Of course, for a sports person, it's not 100% that any field goal kicker is going to kick it through. My kicker, the Pro Bowl Brandon Aubrey, missed an obvious field goal. The second most accurate kicker I saw missed an extra point. The bottom line is there's examples where people in penalty kicks in soccer / football, they miss the whole goal on a penalty kick and lose everything. Be realistic. Now, those are just accidents, despite the fact that these are highly trained athletes, but the possibility of relapse is always there for us. I say to guys, relapse is always possible, but it is never inevitable. And I find sometimes I end up working with guys at 2 ends of the spectrums when I work with them individually or I work with them in a group. The first one is I work with guys, and of course everything in between, but on one end of the spectrum, I work with guys that despite their best efforts are not seeing the results that they hope for. And it feels like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And it really is guys that are going, you know what? I am so discouraged because this is not coming together as quickly as I thought. And my job with those guys is to encourage them to find the motivation, to find the skills, to help them break out of lifelong patterns. And so that is the first thing I do with guys that are discouraged because of just how difficult it feels for them to get out of these long-term patterns, what they feel like are long-term failures in terms of overcoming some of these habits. So on the other end of the spectrum, I sometimes work with guys that are experiencing significant success, and I sometimes have to almost temper their feeling to go, you know what? I know you're experiencing great success, but I want to encourage you to continue to practice the habits that got you here. One of the guys I was coaching yesterday said, Vern, you're like the guy that's trying to get me to eat my vegetables. And what he meant by that is you're basically saying, I know you're experiencing success, but here's what I want to encourage you. I want you to encourage you to get back to the habits that got you here. And the fact that you're excited about the success you're experiencing, I want to temper that to say it doesn't mean that you're invulnerable, or it doesn't mean that you're now free and in the clear. You can't stop doing the very things that got you to this level of success. So I'm often trying to help guys to be realistic, whether or not it is at the point where they're having a difficult time experiencing success or streaks or whatever, or guys that are really on a march, on a roll, and are starting to feel like, you know what, I think I'm free and clear. So that's the first one. Be realistic. Here's the second one that I would say. Learn the power of next time. And one of my absolute all-time favorite authors this is fiction, is a guy called Greg, G-R-E-G-G, Hurwitz. And he writes the Orphan X series about a hitman who's gone straight, is now trying to help people. And he always puts these little witticisms into his books, little motivational things that this hitman now teaches people. And in the latest book, he's teaching his young protege, Joey. He's teaching, he's teaching her about how to overcome a dumbheaded move that she made. And this is what he says. He says, next time. The two best words in the English language. Next time. Just do it better next time. And he goes on and says, let go of guilt. Now, I would probably change the word to shame there, because I think guilt can be a specific guilt, can be a helpful thing, but let's go with this. Let go of guilt. It's self-indulgent and makes everything about you. Look at it. Look at it clean. In other words, look at your screw-ups. Look at your mistakes. Look at them. Look at them clean. Move forward. Do better. Keep growing up. And I love that. The two best words in the English language, next time. What are you learning? What did you learn from your from this mistake, this screw up, this relapse? If you didn't learn anything about it or anything from it, then it's probably going to happen again, and probably in exactly the same words. But if you come in with humility, you come in with the ability to say, I've learned from this, I'm growing from this, this is what I'm going to do next time, this is what I did wrong last time, this is how I'm going to change it. It really is something which I think can serve us well. Now, let me give you a couple stories of guys that are learning about next time in really horrific situations. And this goes way beyond sports analogies. Recently, I've been meeting with a group of guys for close to a year. And one of the guys that was, meeting we would meet pretty much every, good Canadian coffee. We'd meet, once every Friday morning at Tim Hortons for coffee. And I got to know this guy, and he was a little bit older, and found out as he shared his story that he had actually spent the majority of his adult life in prison. He had been paid to kill a guy, which he did. It was a one-time thing. He got caught. He was sentenced to life in prison. And as a result of that, he had spent the majority of his life in prison. Now, in Canada, life in prison usually means 25 years. I know it means real life, in the States or other places, but he had got out after 25 years. And it was interesting, his perspective, not just listening to some of his stories, but which were usually pretty wild about prison and other things. But he had really learned and was an incredibly soft guy around learning from his life experiences. He still needs to go to his parole officer, as a regular thing. But he's actually developed a really cool friendship with his parole officer. And but he's a changed man. He learned from his experiences. Now compare that recently, and I'll probably talk a little bit more about this in future episodes. I have begun the process of volunteering at a maximum security prison, which is about 30-minute drive from here. And I've only been there once, and I'm just finishing the final steps around. I got to go get my fingerprints taken. I've gone through all the other criminal record checks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just about at the point. But I got to go a couple of weeks ago and got to visit various prisoners in our maximum security prison. And it was, I've only been there once, and it's going to be more of a regular thing. I met two different guys. And the first guy was a guy that you could see had softened. He asked me to pray for him regarding his children. He was in the process of learning how to live life in a different way. And so that was one guy I met. He was walking out this version of next time, even though he was experiencing all of the consequences for his actions. And I never got to find out, what he had done. And usually you don't ask. But then I had another experience where I went down into what was really a dark, depressing, called the Special Handling Unit, which most of us would know as solitary confinement. And I was talking to guys who were in the various cells. You were talking through this door, so it's kind of bizarre. But this one guy I talked to, the only thing he was interested in was that he was somebody on YouTube as a rapper. You got to check me out. You got to check me out. I'm a somebody on YouTube, and so here he's in he's not just in maximum security prison, but he's in solitary confinement for who knows what. And the only thing he's interested in me knowing that he's a somebody on YouTube. And you're going, boy, what a difference between two different people. Now, again, those are bizarre stories, but even in the worst situations, there is a version of next time in our lives that we can learn from. So first thing I'd just say, be realistic. Second thing is learn the power of next time. Learn from it, grow from it in our lives. The third one I would say is this. We all need a friend and coach to walk through life with. One of the most powerful little memes, little clips that has been coming out on the internet this week is Tyler Loop's coach. So Tyler Loop, again, is just this young guy, early 20s, and he's now screwed up. He's made a sports mistake that basically cost his entire football team the season. They're out because he couldn't make a 30 or 40-yard field goal. And you have him walking back through the tunnel, probably to the jeers of all of the fans who are Steeler fans, because he's in an opposing stadium. And walking beside him with his arm around his shoulder is his coach, John Harbaugh. And basically consoling him, being a friend, being a coach with this young kicker at probably the worst moment of his life. And I would just say we all need a friend. We all need a coach. We don't just need a friend and a coach when we're doing really well. We need a friend and a coach when we're not doing well, when we screwed up, when we've done something we're embarrassed about. One of the things I love about our groups is guys are able to share, you know what, I totally blew it with my kids. I lost it with my kids. I totally screwed up. I said some stuff, in my marriage and to my wife, and now I'm having to recover from. Or, man, I blew it in terms of my recovery, and I'm feeling horrible. And they find with a friend, with a coach, with a group, somebody to walk through life with. As it says, I think is in Ecclesiastes, 2 are better than 1. Pity the man who falls and has no one to help him up. So I really hope in 2026 you can find someone to help you up. Someone who can help you be realistic. Someone who can help you find your next time as we move into this year. We'll see you next time.